Hey, thanks for checking out the video. Just picked up these 85, 86, around that era Suzuki quads. They've been sitting in storage for 20, 25 years. Just hoping to get them going. Big question is going to be is will they run? So let's get them in the garage and see what we can do. All right, hello everyone and welcome to my video. Recently I received a call from a good friend of mine who knew where there were some ATVs that were going to be up for sale. What I didn't know is when I got there, the gentleman that owned the ATVs was a family member of a family-owned Suzuki dealership that went out of business sometime in the mid to late 90s. And these were all dealer-owned quads, so there were 5 total there. I was able to get 2 of them, a 230 shaft drive and an LT 125, which are mid 80s. I didn't even look at the years yet, but picked them up, um, hoping to get them started. There's not a lot of money in these, but they're kind of cool. They take me back to that era when I first had my first Suzuki that I ever had. So I don't want to put much into these. The goal would be just to kind of go through them, get them cleaned up, go through the fluids, make sure that they function. I really don't want to put any money into them if I can avoid it. Maybe if I have to, 30, 40 bucks for brakes, whatever it might need. But the main goal will just be getting them cleaned up, get them running. Like I said, so they were dealer owned. The 230 shaft drive had been sitting in a barn, literally in a barn, since about 96 or 97. So 27 some years, something like that. Dealer owned again. So they're very complete. They seem pretty good. So I thought I'd take a chance on them. The 125 had been sitting not quite as long because they kind of went through that for one of the family members to ride around. Didn't get ridden much and got put away. So that one's a little bit more up to speed. I think it'll just be a carb clean on that and it should go. The 230, I'm not really sure. So let's get started on them, see, and you know, hey, 27 years, we'll see if it runs, see what it'll take to get it going, and then we'll go from there. All right, so I got this 230. This is the 230 shaft drive. I got this off the trailer and into the garage here. Right off the bat, we got the fender off. I'm just going to try to get the carburetor cleaned out right now. And we got a little bit of a surprise in there. Not too much of a surprise, actually, but I didn't expect that much debris in there from a mouse or maybe a chipmunk even. But we're going to get that all cleaned out and clean the carburetor and see if this thing will fire up. I'll check the oil, make sure that's good. Probably just change it. But I did see one thing that was a little concerning that I didn't notice when I was picking this up. You could probably make that out. It says 230 shaft shot. So that's not a good sign. Hopefully that's just belonging to another machine and not this one, but we'll see. Get the carb cleaned up, see if it'll fire, and we'll go from there. All right, so we got the carburetor out. It's really not that bad, at least from the exterior. Everything was really nice coming off. That looks like maybe, okay. Um, sorry. Everything on the quad was really nice. You could tell that it was a dealer-owned item. Everything was intact. All the nuts and bolts and screws and things seemed to be OEM. Wasn't a lot of mix match stuff, so that was nice. Everything came off good. Got the air box out. The air box was really bad, so I took that right out. I was going to vacuum it out, but I ended up taking it right out because it was just so bad. But the carb is here. I'll probably pull the LT 125 carb off at the same time. I'll get this taken apart, and well, that doesn't look right, but we'll get this taken apart into the ultrasonic cleaner. I have an ultrasonic cleaner that I use for my carbs. It works really good. So if you're thinking about getting one of those, highly recommend. They do a really nice job. Still need to clean them out by hand, but it does a lot of the excuse me, it does a lot of the grunt work for you. Throw it in there and let it run. 10 minutes, work on something else, and then when you come back, it's all nice and clean. You just spray it out with carb cleaner and some air, and you're good to go. So let's get to it. All right, so we got the 230 carburetor out, really clean. Totally surprised. This could have run for sure if I had tried it. Really, I mean, I'm glad I pulled it off and got it anyway, but you can see very clean. No issues with this whatsoever. The bowl super clean. There was no residue in there from leftover fuel. So it was prepped for long storage, prepped well for long storage, or somebody had been in there at some point and cleaned it out and never put fuel in it. Now, I don't, judging by where it was, and it was packed in the back corner. We pulled out boxes and boxes. It took us 15, 20 minutes, three of us, to get to it. So I don't believe that it was, at least not in the last few years, moved or touched. So anyway, it doesn't change anything for what I'm doing, other than I probably could have just started it had I put some fuel in it. Same thing with the gas tank on that. The gas tank on that is also clean. So we're going to rinse and repeat with the 125 quad, or the 125 carburetor. However, that one is a lot worse, as you can see from that, and I'll put a picture up there, but a lot more tarnish buildup. This one's going to be a little bit more challenging, but I think it should be okay, hopefully. The thing with these carburetors is, many of you probably already know, or you may not know, but you can buy cheap aftermarket carburetors for a lot of these units. And when I say cheap, I mean 20 bucks, 25 bucks. But they're hit and miss. They're not very good. So whenever you have the opportunity to use an OEM carburetor, I highly recommend that. These can usually be cleaned up, no new parts in them, just clean them and they're good to go. So the thing for me about cleaning them is just, taking your time. You don't need an ultrasonic cleaner, but it does help. It helps speed up the process. I think it gives you a nicer product in the end. Just taking your time. Keep track of what you're taking out so that you can repeat it. Take pictures if you need to. I like to mark down the setting of the air mixture screw just to know what it was at prior to disassembly. I usually will rough it in anyway when I go to put it all back together, but at least that gives me a reference of where it was at. And then, it's just a clean assembly is also key. And, the pictures help a lot, or a video, anything like that. But just take your time with it. Usually you can get these apart, clean them up, and you're good to go. To avoid cleaning them, you want to do good prepper, good storage, clean gas, things like that. But enough about that. Let's get on this other one into the parts washer, see how that comes out. So one thing I thought it important to mention that I did not mention is as you're taking these out, especially taking the carburetor apart, especially near the air fuel mixture, there's often a washer and seal that can be found, and it usually stays inside the carburetor. So I'll show these to you here. You can see them. Now, I did not remove these. I knew it was in there, and I looked. The main reason I didn't is because sometimes when I go to take them out, they'll fly out and I end up losing them. But what I did do is I place them into a jar so that if they do dislodge while in the ultrasonic, they'll be laying in there. And that's the case. Sometimes they'll vibrate loose and fall out. I don't know if that's a good habit of mine, but I just know that every time I've tried to take one out, not every time, but sometimes when I do, I'll use a pick or you can blow some carb cleaner up through and they come flying out and then I lose them. So what I usually do is I take the screw out and I look inside, and if you could see the shiny portion of the washer, you know that it's in there. And I kind of leave well enough alone with that. But if you're not aware of that, you need to be, so that you're looking for it. Sometimes there's check balls in some of the orifices as well. So you should check each of those. Every carburetor is different. Not all of them use it. But if you see that, I usually like to tap it like that. Any springs and check balls that will come out then. But these washers and seals, they tend to stay in there a little bit, and you either need to work themselves out or leave them in there. Just be mindful that they're there. If you're doing this by hand, you got to watch for that for sure. We got the carburetor back on. I got a little temporary fuel source hooked up. The tank I'm going to wash out before I do anything with that. We're just bypassing the fuel pump. These do have a little fuel pump, vacuum operated fuel pump on them, which I'm hoping is still good. But I'll bypass that for now just to get it fired up. Battery source, so we're just going to use my battery pack. The battery, as you'd imagine, is no good after that long. We're just going to want to make sure we're not touching anything. We have some potentially leaking fuel around. We want to make sure we're not going to spark or arc anywhere around the fuel. Ask me how I know that. Okay. Let's see if we got power. Turn the battery. Oh, wow. All right, neutral light works. That's good. Let's see if our start button, starter. Okay, good. Did check the oil. The oil's good. I'm not going to change it yet. Again, I just want to make sure it runs. No major smoke issues, anything like that. Let's see. Put it on run. See what we got. Choke. Ooh. I'm gonna get my gas tank adjusted here. This is my gas tank, if you're wondering. Just a quart of oil with some fuel in it. So we're just gravity feeding that into the carb. Need a little more fuel. I'm gonna let this hang down from up there. All right. Hey, no smoke. All right. Well, that's a good sign. So what I'll do now is I'll get looking at this fuel pump and make sure that's working. If that is, I'm going to clean the tank out, get that back on, get everything cleaned up. I usually would clean this prior to bringing it in here, but it was raining when I was unloading, and figured I'd just get started on it. But I'll close some of it up and then probably change the oil and see if I can get it to run and idle, and maybe take it for a quick spin and go from there. Cool. All right, so we got the Suzuki 230 all back together, carburetor cleaned, put back on, fuel tank all cleaned out, new fuel in it, and it starts up and runs good. Very impressed with the overall quality of the storage that they did on this. They did a really nice job. Cleaned up really good. For an older quad, this is a really nice, nice unit. I have the rear tire still off. I'm waiting for the brake cover. I had to order a brake cover, so I had 22 bucks for a brake cover. I did put new rear brakes on it. They were 18 bucks and a $60 battery. That's it. That's all that I had to add to this. And it's, if I needed a little quad to run around, this would be really nice. But I just don't need it. And for the price I got it for, I'm just gonna take it to the auction and see how it does, and hopefully somebody will get something nice. But so you never know what you're gonna find, right? This was really quite a good cleanup, and you always hope for those situations where you just pick it up, clean up the carb a little bit, and get it running. The weird thing is this would have ran, I think, without it, like I had mentioned. So, but we'll start it up. This is a cold start too. So I just got home from work a little while ago. We're just gonna start it up. It's really impressive. So there you go. Um, really nice, cleaned up really good. Doesn't smoke. Goes through the gears. It's a nice, solid machine. This is gonna make somebody a nice machine. I still gotta tighten up that rack. Well, I did paint the racks too. I didn't want to get into it. Kind of opened up a can of worms with doing that, but they were pretty rough shape. So I thought, as nice as the plastic is on it, I thought it'd be good to clean up the rack and paint them. So, well, let's check out the 160, because that also did equally as well. So, all right, so the 160 cleaned up really nice. Also, fenders, no cracks. Another good example of a well taken care of quad. This is gonna also go to the auction. I didn't put anything into this other than clean it up, new fuel. It also runs really well, just like the 230 did. Um, brakes all work. Got a hitch on it, which is cool for a little quad. Got the different bumper on the front, but cleaned up nice. And this will make somebody a nice, good intermediate or starter quad for some, for cheap. I mean, to get something like this today, you're spending 2,500 to $3,000 probably, and that might even be a little bit used. I don't know what like a 200 or 250 is going for these days, but this is actually a 125 unit, but has a 185 engine on it. I didn't realize that until I talked to the previous owner, and he told me the frames were identical, and they actually put a 185 engine in it. So this is a decent size quad. You could, easily 12, 13, 14-year-old can run this around. So now it doesn't have a suspension, so this isn't going to be great for trail riding or anything, but it's a good intermediate quad to fill a gap between like a 90cc or something like that. But this was good. Carb cleaned the tank out, and yeah, I went through the fluids on this, and that's it. But we'll start this one up. This one has the primer on the carburetor, and pull start only on this one. All right, so we're all wrapped up with the two Suzukis that I picked up last weekend. Really happy how they turned out. I didn't have to do a whole lot to them. Better yet, I didn't have to put a lot of money into them. Just some time. Probably had, I don't know, 3 hours or so into to getting them all cleaned up. Went through both carburetors, oil on both of them. Went through and lubed up the suspension on the 230. Cleaned them both. I fixed a little bit of the plastic on the 230. Overall, it's in really good shape. Just had a couple spots on the bottom that were cracked. Didn't get too carried away with it, just enough to secure them. So maybe 4 hours total. I forgot about the plastic, but overall, not too bad. I mean, every time I buy an old quad, I hope that it's as easy as this one was. Really didn't need too much. Did put the back brakes on, as I mentioned. So that's about it. So if you enjoyed the content, please hit the like button. If you're interested in any more videos like this, please hit the subscribe button as well. Thank you.